know that money is not valuable, doesn't really have any real value to it, but bartering does. And when we barter, it's literally the exchange of one thing for another thing. Money is just something that we barter. So bartering comes first, and then you say, okay, I'm going to barter this money for your time at your job at the one. He would rather have his kids have a relationship with his parents at the cost of his, I guess, maturity, at the cost of his happiness, at the cost of his emotional and mental health. Welcome to the Bamboo Project Podcast, where you can see how we turn our life into a living. I want to give a shout out to the Bamboo Project family for tuning into episode 27. My name is DonivanGray, and you can find us on all major streaming platforms such as Spotify, soon to be Amazon and Apple Podcasts. If you want to see how we look, you want to see what we're up to on a regular basis, you can see us on Instagram. Mine is DonivanGray, DonivanGray, and my beautiful girlfriend AnetaBurn, AnetaBurn. And some people are listening to this podcast. If you are listening to it, you can find us on YouTube. We have a personal YouTube channel, The Bamboo Project YouTube. And you can find us on Twitter. My Twitter is DonivanGray, DonivanGR. What happened?
Did you see my face?
You making a lot of faces.
I was trying to remember the thing.
So what you're hearing right now is us trying to work on some signals from when I'm talking too fast, trying to incorporate different signals into it. We're still working on this. This is our first time doing it. So where was I? I was gonna list all of the Bamboo projects that we have. We have a food page, a music page, a clothing page, a fitness page, a sports page, and a podcast page. You can find all of the different podcasts or different Instagrams in the description on YouTube or on whatever you're listening to this at. And I'm doing consultation, so DM me for consultation at DonivanGray. Okay, so today's episode agenda is going to be the life update, episode playback, Donovan's questions and topics. So if you're new, you don't know what these are, I'm going to actually going forward, only because of my mom. She felt like I should be more descriptive of the podcast. They should have more of a format or a layout. It's kind of annoying when I hear it because I feel like it was, but here we go. So the life update is, like I said earlier, the plan of the podcast is to show how I go from being a regular everyday person to being a billionaire. So I give you weekly updates of what I'm doing to get to that goal. The episode playback is me going over last week's episode and recapping anything that I missed or anything I wanted to add on to that. Donovan's questions is when I have a question during the week that I just feel like other people should ask themselves or ask their friends, just to kind of spark a conversation within yourself. Or if you want to DM me or, have a response to something I said, we can have that conversation. And then the most important and final topic would be whatever the agenda is for that day. And because some podcasts can go very long, I'm trying to lower it from 3 hours down to maybe 2 hours, a little bit less than that. I'm going to add timestamps for all the episodes. So you can go to the description below and see the timestamps for this episode and the ones going forward. Right now it is 11:28 and it is September 22nd. The reason I get the time is because if you're new, you don't know this, but I've been trying to start the podcast at 10 a.m. so I can have it done today, finished, completed today, out today, and I can be able to be more efficient during the week to make more money. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about women's agreeableness and women's roles in relationships. So first segment is going to be life update. So a lot of people who do not know, I'm a bike messenger and I've been going through, I guess, hell for the last 2 weeks. And last week I had my sister on the podcast, so I didn't get to actually update everybody on what's going on with my bike getting fixed, but it's finally fixed. The thing is, it's kind of weird talking about it now, only because it's been, I guess, 2 weeks, and that feels like forever in my life. So I don't really remember much of what happened before, but I do remember the same thing was happening with where it was like he has said he was going to come to fix my bike again, and he didn't come to fix my bike. If you're new, go back and listen to the last maybe 3 episodes or so, and you can see what I'm talking about, because it's a constant thing with him where he'll say he's going to fix it, and he never does. He tells me he's going to come to my house, never does. He says, hey, you need this, I got you, and he doesn't do it. So I'm starting to realize that these kind of people, I think it's better to kind of keep them at a distance. I don't even, like, only because what does that sound?
Kitty eating.
Oh, my cat is eating food. I'm gonna give it a second. It's empty, kitty. It's empty.
Let me pick the bowl up. Hey.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so as I was saying, is that I feel like there are certain people who, I don't know how to put this. You have a timer for this part? For 25 minutes? Okay. Because I feel like certain people, right? They are good in your life. I'm trying to see how to put this without, I don't even know where my brain is going right now. I guess I'm trying to say something without saying it. I think that's probably what's happening right now. Because I don't want to cut him off because he is helpful, but I feel like what he is doing is not helpful. And it's kind of annoying, but I think it's good to always have a person there just for emergency situation you can go to and be like, hey, I have a problem. Can you come help me fix that problem? But then it's like a last second resort or last effort, because it's like, okay, if you do come, the thing does get fixed. But there are too many times that I have said, can you come over to help me, or can you come over to fix this, or you have offered to come and help, and the thing does not get fixed. And to me, that's problematic. I don't know if that's worse than actually doing the I don't know if that's worse than not getting the thing done, or if I should just bite the bullet and just find a different way to do it, because using him to do it, things don't get done the way they should. So, excuse me. I'm working on trying to figure that out myself. Melissa bought an iPad and an iPen. So for the Bamboo Project clothing, we actually just made pants last week. Melissa made some suede pants, and you can go and find that on the Bamboo Project _clothing. The picture will be on there, and you can follow the page to see what kind of stuff we are creating later. Yeah, this I guess is good, better. I just feel weird. I gotta get used to it. I'm trying to do like a what you wanna call it, a less free flowing podcast.
If you're trying not to run out of time, you're good on time. It's only been 4 minutes.
That's why I'm just like
You're fine.
yeah, I know, but it's weird because I'm just like thinking about the time. It's just
Don't think about it. Just kind of. You got 21 minutes left. That's like I feel like you ran through those two like mad fast. What am I use the iPad for? What's the cool? Why I bought it?
I mean, I'm still on the iPad. I didn't get past it. The Bamboo Project clothing was part of the iPad thing. That's what it was supposed to be in. But I didn't even see that as a third thing on there, honestly. Yeah, what you're hearing is me trying to work through being structured for the podcast, because I'm like, it feels very uncomfortable because I don't want to miss what I have. I'm trying to stay in the time that I set for myself for this, and I just feel like my skin is crawling. That's what it feels like. I'm just like, that's my brain. It's like, I think more so because it's becoming more like a job than I wanted it to be. But I'm hoping that if I get more used to it, then the feeling will go away. But this definitely makes my skin crawl a little bit. Yeah.
It's your podcast, so if it goes over 25 minutes.
But it's not even that. It's the goal I set for myself and what I'm planning to do for myself, and that is what I'm competing with, not necessarily what that says. It's like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what is happening. What is happening is not what I want to do.
Maybe we need a timer that you can see.
I think that would be worse. I think that would be significantly worse. I'm trying to figure it out because I'm like,
If you can see the timer, you'll know that you have time left.
But it's not about me not having time. It's about me thinking about it. Because if I'm thinking about something else that's not what's on the screen, then my brain is being taken away from that.
So what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about like getting to the next line instead of thoroughly fleshing out whatever I'm talking about in the first line.
Maybe you should read through what's on the list before you start. That way you can kind of flow through it.
I guess maybe.
As opposed to looking and then looking and then looking and like, oh shit, did I miss one? And then looking.
Because it's not even about, I don't even think it's only about missing something. I think it's also about the fact that my brain is doing the analysis thing. It's just like, okay. Because I didn't want it to turn into like this.
Then why are you doing it?
Because I wanted to see if it would help the podcast. Because I don't like where it's like I'm all the way over here. So now I'm all the way over here on the other side. Before it was free flowing.
Yeah. There was no structure.
Now it's too much structure. Now I'm trying to figure out how do I make it somewhere in the middle where I feel comfortable to be able to talk through what I'm talking about without feeling like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't, because I'm like, that doesn't allow me to just talk and be, the purpose of the podcast is supposed to be to just kind of just talk. So, okay. How much time I got? 19 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. You got. Can't do math. 8 minutes have passed.
Okay. Yeah.
By 17 minutes.
Yeah, this is really, because I'm just like, I'm thinking about the stuff that I want to talk about on there, and I'm like, how important is it? If I talk about working in Queens, I don't feel like I have the energy that I felt when I was thinking about it when I talk about it, because it's on there the way it is. It's very weird. I don't know what's happening. All right, I'm gonna just go and see what happens. Remember, I said this 2 weeks ago, analysis paralysis. If you feel like you have it, the best thing to do is just do something and then just deal with the consequences later. Because either way, no matter what you do, there's going to be consequences. So either I can go and do A or I can do B. But as you can see, I'm doing nothing and time's running out and nothing is getting done. So I'd rather me at least do something and then it'd be terrible as opposed to me doing nothing. So Melissa bought an iPad and an iPen, right? So what happened is, like I said, we have the clothing page. So Melissa is going to. Are you going to draw with those? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I want to draw. So it's not related to clothing.
How is it not related to clothing? What are you going to draw?
Oh, I wanted to like draw like logos or add stuff to like the thumbnails and stuff.
I hope that's not the real reason why you bought an iPad and an iPen. Because I feel like that's not very.
I feel like it'll just give me more creative flow to it and just in general.
I think Melissa bought an iPad because she has money and she went to buy an iPad.
That's not true. Because we talked about buying an iPad from before.
Yeah, but I think he presented it to me because he wanted an iPad. Not because I'm like, if it was for clothing, that makes more sense. If you're talking about what are you gonna do in the thumbnail?
What do I do for clothing?
To draw the clothes?
Yeah, I could do that too. It's here, so it's no.
Is it here today?
Yeah, it comes in today.
So it's not here right now.
What does that mean?
My question was, is it here? And you said yes.
Right
Okay. So that's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like you want the iPad, so you could have an iPad and an iPen. So yeah, we will have to find a way to monetize that and use it for a good cause, because I don't know if it is being bought for that reason. The Bamboo Project clothing, like I said, we have some suede pants and what else? Oh yeah, so I am trying to buy my first property, right? And right now, Melissa and I have about $18,000 combined, something like that. and we need to get to 35,000 before we can buy a property. Now, I came up with a saving plan to do that, and according to my savings plan, I should have all of that. I'm gonna pull up the plan that I have. Where is it? So, okay, I have plan A, plan B, and plan C. Plan A is if I'm making $5,700 a month, which would be $1,400 a week, which is roughly about $75,000 a year. Funny enough, if I do that, then I'll be saving $1,000 a week, and I will have the money to pay for the property by January 12th. That's plan A. That's the best plan. Everything goes perfectly. Plan B will be in 20 weeks, which would be if I make $4,900 a week, which would, if I make $4,900, $4,980 a month, which would be $1,245 per week. And weekly, I'd have to save $800, and I would have the money to buy the property by February 9th, which is a lot more realistic than the first plan that I came up with, because I know things go wrong all the time. I feel like that just looks mad dark on the screen. Anyways, plan A is if $1,000 comes every week, I'd have to make $1,400 every week, only working 6 days a week, and I'm now working in Queens. So I've been trying to work in Queens yesterday, and it was pretty good. And if I go to Manhattan, there's no guarantee I'm going to make money, because DoorDash, I have to wait for a schedule, sign up for the schedule, and work. The money's decent, it's good, but there's no guarantee I'm going to get a schedule to work, and Uber is pretty bad in the city. So that's plan A and plan B. Plan C would be 32 weeks, which would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 24.
32.
I feel like 32 divided by 4 is 8. Yeah. So that would be 8 months. So in 8 months, if I plan C would be 8 months, which would be if I'm only making $3,780 a month and I am making weekly $945. Now that is very, 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 very reasonable to do. I would have the money. If I'm making that much money per week, I'll be able to save $500 every week, and I would have the money by May 4th. May 4th, I would have the money to buy the property. That's a long ass time from now. That's a long time. So I'm hoping I can go with plan B, where I work for 20 weeks and have the money after the initial 20 weeks. And then my monthly bills, I've tried to minimize it to about $1,700 a week. It's probably not gonna happen though. I feel like things are gonna come up. I'm very sure that is not going to be the amount of money I spend every month. But that's what I put in on my monthly expenses so far. So we're gonna see what happens, because I really don't think that's gonna happen. For groceries, I put $800 a week. For my phone, I put $150. For my utilities, is $150. Also, my debt is $230. Let me get this bigger. Yeah, my debt is $230. My transportation is $300, and my subscription is $150, and my miscellaneous is $200. If I only work in Queens, then I can save on transportation, and I can put that $300 a month towards the property. So I wonder if that will be better, because yesterday I worked in Queens, and it has disadvantages. I'm close to the house. I can come back and get something to eat. I don't have to spend money on food. I can come to the bathroom. I can relax. If it rains, I can come back. If my bike stops working, I can just come back here. And it's definitely busier because nobody's out here in Queens. And on top of that, since nobody's out here, it's easier to ride around in the city or ride around in Queens, because there's no cars, there's no traffic. It's just free flowing. Everywhere I go, there's nobody there. Only difference is the orders aren't as high. So I took 19 orders yesterday. I worked about 6 hours yesterday. Took 19 orders. That was $140. I was making about $24 an hour yesterday, and I only worked 6 hours. I worked from 12:30 to 3:30, and then I worked from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. So I worked about 6 hours yesterday. And like I said, it was okay. It was decent. I can definitely, I could find a way to finesse that to get what I need. Because like I said, if I want to do $200 a day, that will put me at $1,400 a week. And that will be close to what I need to make the money in 16 weeks, which is plan A. Plan B only needs me to make $1,200. Oh, I'm lying. Plan A is $1,400 a week. So even if I work 6 days a week, I would have to be making $220 a day, probably, to get to $1,400 a week. So it's very, like I said, Plan B is the most reasonable one. So I should have the property, or at least have the money for the property between February 9th and May 4th. So I'm hoping that, we get that by then. And what else? Yeah, I feel like the pants that Melissa made are very high quality pants, and I think a lot of people like them. You gotta follow on the page from that. People just seem to be commenting about it and DMing her and things like that. So I think that's a good start. We're gonna just keep making some more pants. Question: are you gonna do my jacket this week?
I would like to, yes.
Okay. So hopefully she can re-puff my puffer jacket, because my jacket has lost. I didn't even lose all of the puff in it. It just got wet. So you can go and on YouTube, hopefully you have a video up of how she, I guess, re-puffs my Prada puffer jacket, because that's the warmest jacket I have. But since it's cold, I need a warm jacket, and it's not working no more because all the puff is flat. So I feel like I'm forgetting something else about the life update. How much time was that? Because I'm pretty sure it's allergies, but because of the way it is acting, I'm not sure. I could have coronavirus. I don't know, because I don't even know if it's allergies or not, but I have my cat here, and my nose has been doing all types of craziness. I guess it's just doing crazy stuff. One nostril is clogged, the other one is 100% working. And then now when that happens, too much air is going in one nostril, so it's hard to breathe. So I've been mouth breathing for like the last almost 2-3 weeks. When I go to sleep, I wake up, my nose is running ridiculously. I wake up in the middle of the night just to go in the bathroom so I can breathe. I'm sneezing. I'll be in the hallway trying to breathe, because it's getting so crazy at this point, where it's like everywhere I go, my nose is clogged. So if it's allergies, if I'm allergic to my cat, I just thought, okay, boom. If I am allergic to my cat, I can just go outside when I go to work. I should be fine, right? There's no cat hair around me. I should be good. That doesn't work. I go outside, my nose honestly gets worse when I go outside, and I think it's because I'm on my bike and there's so much air going into my nose that I don't even know, it's irritating my nose and it's getting more inflamed. So I'm thinking about having to give my cat back to my mom, at least until we move out, because I feel as though, because we're all in the same room, it makes it worse. I've been trying to vacuum every day. I've been trying to brush her every day to see if it helps. I think it might have helped a little bit, but I still feel like if I go outside, there should not be any inflammation in my nose. I feel like I should be fine. I don't think my nose should be swollen. I don't think I should be outside sneezing and can't breathe or anything like that. There's no cat around. So I think that's a problem. Even when I was playing basketball the other day, I'm like, oh, okay, everything is good. And then as soon as I start playing basketball, my nose is swollen again. So if anybody knows how to fix that, and I don't take medication, because you know how I feel about all that silliness, which is why I changed my diet, because I don't trust these people trying to give me all types of fake food and fake medicine and things like that. So that wraps it up for life update, and yeah, episode playback. So this is where I will recap last week's episode. If you haven't seen it already, episode 26, I have my sister on, Queen Nefertiti, and her boyfriend EJ. Now the thing about that podcast that annoyed me is this, right? I'll probably put it on this video. I feel as though when I was doing the podcast, he was giving me side eyes during the podcast, right? And I think that took away from my ability to do the podcast, because I don't understand why people have this feeling towards me that I think that I'm better than them. I get that feeling from people, and I don't know how to react when I get that feeling. So as I'm doing a podcast, I'm doing the intro, I'm gonna put the video up of him sitting there cross-armed in his chair, and he's side-eyeing me. And I'm just like, I don't understand why he has this kind of energy. So there's no reason I feel like he had the energy for. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So my problem with last week's podcast is that I feel as though a couple of things, which is why I'm kind of having a structure this week on the podcast. There's no issue. No, this is way too dark. This is crazy. Nah, Melissa, it's too dark. I don't know why it's doing that. Try turning it off and turn it stopping the video and then restarting it. I wanted this podcast to be more structured. Is one, I got feedback from my mom and my friend Tim, and I also feel like that I didn't like how last podcast went. I feel like my brain is running a million miles a minute right now. I feel like because he was on the podcast, I was trying to get everybody involved in the podcast. I wanted to be a good energy on the podcast. So by doing that, I did not realize that my sister was uncomfortable with saying things that she had told me about their relationship on the podcast. I thought she would have been saying the things that she brought up to me, but she wasn't. And then she was kind of letting him run loose with what he thought. And she didn't really say much to him about it. And then I felt as though when I went to her to say, hey, you disagree with that? She didn't want to say anything. And she later told me she felt like she did not want to interrupt the podcast and people talking. So she'd rather just, kind of be silent on it. So I feel like if I had more structure on the podcast, that would have allowed me to then kind of go through her topics that she had, because she had 2 more topics that we didn't go over because we talked about sports for an hour and 15 minutes. And that took away from everything else we could have talked about. So that kind of annoyed me. So I felt like that would have been more structured if I had more structure for that. What else? Let me see. Oh, okay. So another thing that happened on the podcast that I didn't like when we first started it was we came in here and he was like, hey, don't say my name and don't say where I work at. And I'm just like, I hate when people do that. That is so annoying because somebody else on the podcast, not on the podcast, somebody I talked to during the podcast, Melissa's person that worked as a nurse or whatever. I don't know where he was at. I think he might have been RN or something. He's on the podcast. That was like 7 weeks ago. I'm going to put that episode here too, so you know what episode that is. And I'll link it in the description so you can go and watch that one, because he also felt like his name was very important and he didn't want anybody at his job to know where he worked at. And he's like, oh, if they hear me talking, I might get in trouble. And I felt like yesterday or last week he felt the same way. And my thing is, if you're not going to say anything that is either one that you don't stand on or two that is so crazy, then why are you here? One, and two, why are you saying things that you would not stand on? So if that's how you feel, I think you should say those things. But then also, what do you think you're going to possibly say that will get you fired from your job? Like, I don't understand that mindset people have. My aunt was very similar, where it's like, why are you recording me right now? Which is what he said too. Melissa was giving him, is something on? Melissa was giving him and Neffy some food to try, and I wanted to get their reaction to the food to see if they like it or not. We're gonna put it on the food page, and he's like, "Oh, why you guys always want to record everything?" And I'm like, "Why are you asking?" In my head, I'm like, "Why are you asking that question?" Like, I don't understand. That never crosses my mind. Somebody pulls a camera out to go, "Why are you recording this?" Obviously, we're recording it because we want to get your reaction to see if you like the food or not. But when people do that, it makes me think that they are trying to be, one, difficult, or two, have something to hide, or three, that they themselves are acting in a way that is disingenuous and they don't want to be recorded because they know they're being disingenuous. They don't want anybody to know outside of here how they're acting. So that just makes me feel really weird when somebody does that. So he did that during the podcast. Then at the end of the podcast, the camera head was about to die. So I said, I noticed that he would start tapping on his watch to my sister. So I'm like, they gotta go. I'm like, what time you guys gotta go? So she goes, can we stay in 30 minutes? She's asking him. He's like, no, we can't do that. So I'm like, okay, maybe they gotta go somewhere. So then he said to her, did they call you yet? And my sister goes, they're not going to call me. Like, there's no way they're going to call me today. It's not going to happen. And then she goes, can we stay 10 more minutes? He's like, fine, we do 10 minutes. So they stay for 10 minutes, right? So the end of the podcast, and then she asked him, where we got to go? And he didn't want to tell her. He's like, later, I'll tell you later. So I'm like, okay, why is he being weird about this? If you have somewhere important to go, then just say where you have to go. Why are you trying to hide that? It just seems weird to me. So then, come to find out that he went to the house to play video games at his house. He wanted to leave to go to his house to play video games. Now, to me, that seems weird because you can't read the room and see what's happening. That whatever you're doing is not that important. You're playing video games. It's not something that you can't do whenever you get to your house. Especially if you wanted to wait, you could have waited 30 more minutes. So there was that. And then I'm like, okay, that's some weird shit. So my sister and I talking again about it, and my mouth is dry. Am I talking fast?
No.
Okay.
Maybe I missed you.
It feels fast. So my sister decides that she's going to ask him, like, what happened that day? Why did they have to leave? And he says, oh, I had to return a library book, right? Now that's different than what they did that day when they left. Because when they left, they went to his house to stay in his room and play video games. Come to find out, he said he had to leave because there was a library book that he had to return. Now that I think about it, do you know what time they left here?
No.
I don't even believe none of the stuff that was said, but I'm just curious if the library is even open at that time. Because they came here like almost 2, right?
Yeah.
3? So they
They left around 5.
libraries close at what? 4 o'clock?
It depends.
So either he had a library book he had to return, which in my brain is like, by which day? It's a day they return them by? That's how they work?
Huh?
When you return a library book, it's by a certain day?
Yeah, and then after the day, there's a fee. But most libraries stay open until like later. But then again, I don't know. That's the King's Library. I don't know about the Bronx.
Either way, I feel like these are things you can say. Hey, I got to return this library book. And even then, it's like, how much you got to pay for a library book if it's not returned on time?
A couple cents a day.
You got to pay $1 a day, 25 cents or some shit like that. So like I said, that just kind of goes to his character, which I've talked about before on this podcast, which I find very irritating. And I try to give him the benefit of the doubt 2 weeks ago during my sister's birthday, where I felt like he wasn't doing that kind of weird stuff, but for whatever reason during the podcast, he was doing that. So then we also got into talking about, my shoulders. What I was trying to do was, so something happened with my laptop, but I think I caught it within probably a minute or two. So the audio might be messed up for that minute. So during the podcast, I was under the assumption that Neffy wanted to talk about the things that she had told me. So when I brought it up on the podcast, I thought that she would be more open to have that conversation. But she wasn't. She was more reserved when it came to talking about him. Whenever he said something, she kind of would like shake her head no, but she wouldn't really say anything about it. She kind of just let him say things that may or may not have been true. So then I was like, okay, how can I segue this into the conversation? So I asked about how parents in Caribbean cultures or foreign cultures have that dynamic with their kids. And I feel like he was trying to avoid having that conversation. So he was putting it on Melissa to talk about it. And then when we started getting into him and the camera died, that's when he felt like he wanted to leave. That's the feeling I got from it. So we didn't really get much into it. What I did learn from that is that the reason that he, I guess, submits to his parents' law is because he feels as though he would rather have his kids have a relationship with his parents at the cost of his, I guess, maturity, at the cost of his happiness, at the cost of his emotional and mental health. He feels like, well, what do I do if, my parents don't want to talk to me no more? What do I do about the kids? Now, me, like I said, I don't really care because I don't think that a parent should have the right to abuse me emotionally or mentally just because I have kids and I want them to have a relationship. Me personally, I don't care about that. So I feel like that's what he was getting at with that, because Neffy and I have talked about it where he will do a lot of things because his parents say to do it, or he's trying to please his parents or look good in front of his parents. and it comes at the cost of their relationship because he would rather his parents be happy than his girlfriend be happy. And they've been dating for 7 years or so. So I feel like at a certain point you have to make a decision to go, okay, we are. I mean, and even then, I don't even know if you should always put your significant other above your parents. But I think that the things that he has been doing, you should, as an adult, be able to say, no, that's not going to happen. We're not doing it like that to your parents. And I don't feel like he does that. But then when we left, he tried to do this thing where he was saying that the reason that he doesn't talk to his parents because about things that they do that's wrong is because he can get very disrespectful to them. And that's why he chooses not to talk to them about it, because he knows he can get very, very, very disrespectful. And my sister co-signed that. But I'm like, not ever have I heard anybody, whether it be him or her or anybody, tell me of any situation where he has done something like that with his parents. For the most part, when I hear about his parents, it's usually they told him to do something, he did it, or he doesn't want to do something because he's afraid of how his parents will perceive him, or if they tell him he can't bring somebody to an event, it's because he won't bring them, or they got to wear, or she has to wear this, or things like that. So I don't know where this disrespectful energy that he says he has for them is at, because I've never heard of it or seen it. So another thing with the podcast last week, like I said, I feel like when it comes to handling multiple people, I think everybody who was here enjoyed the podcast. I think I covered a lot of different components of having people on the podcast. I think everybody felt good. I think everybody more or less got to talk enough. I think I had a good flow of the conversation. But I feel like having 4 people, I need to get better at handling that, because I think 4 is definitely the limit of people that should be on the podcast for sure. Melissa wasn't really on the podcast. She was a producer, but she was talking, so she wasn't really a guest. But I definitely think that 4 people on is definitely the limit, because I've been on I've been in a book club before where it's like 10 people talking and everybody gets to talk for 45 seconds. They get their words off, and it's almost like when you see those politicians doing the moderating, where everybody's trying to just say something that's real quick and funny or real polarizing, and everybody's just trying to get their headlines in. And you're not really having a conversation when people are just trying to look cool or sound cool. So I think with 4, you can still have that conversation. I think it's a little bit harder. And like I said, I feel like afterwards, everybody felt good about the conversation. I don't feel like anybody felt like it went crazy. But I still feel like I have to handle it better. I should have brought Nephew more into the conversation by directly asking her questions. I was allowing it to flow, as opposed to being like, okay, I'm hosting this, I need to go, hey, what do you think about this? Or how do you feel about that? I just assumed which was a problem with what I did, because I was feeling like she was going to act how she normally does, and she didn't. And because I didn't do anything about it, that's on me. That's my fault. I'm the host. I should be able to go, okay, things are not going how I assumed. I have to go. Does that mean slow down? That means I have to go and fix it. I have to go and pull her out of that slump that she's in when it comes to having that conversation. My nose is acting crazy right now. I feel like I'm about to sneeze out of both my nostrils at the same time. So yeah, there was that. Like I said, I think we stayed on sports too long. It was like an hour and 15 minutes, and that's another thing I think I could have fixed, which is why I have the time restraints now. How much time is on here right now?
Right now, 16.
I did 16 minutes. Yeah, so I feel like we were on the sports for too long, and I feel like I could have. If I had the time restraints that I have now, then I would have been able to go, okay, we talked about sports for 30 minutes or 25 minutes. Let's go to the next topic. Which is what I talked about with Tim, where he was like, yo, bro, I was talking about sports for like an hour and 15 minutes. He was like, I thought I was going to get some gems, and like it was an hour and 15 minutes of sports. And I'm like, yeah, it was a lot. I didn't plan to be like that, but we kept kind of rehashing sports and from a different perspective, because I felt like I was trying to get everybody to understand where we're both coming from in terms of what we think sports are to each other, and what we think that an interest of one person to another person should be. So like I said, I still feel like it was way too long. We kept just attacking it from different angles, and it wasn't supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be just about interest. Another problem I had with the last podcast is I felt like it was misogynistic based, or it was a male based conversation. Because I asked my sister about what her favorite interest was, and she said that she likes to travel, and I'm like, all right, that's cool, but I don't feel like that counts as the same for basketball and soccer. I feel like that's the thing that you like to do, but I don't feel like it's a passion. I don't think that's what it is. And then another thing too, which I think was weird, is that when my sister was talking about what interest that the main question that she asked was, how much should a partner be interested in their partner's interest? And I felt like she wasn't really going after the reason that she asked the question. So because of that, he was talking and she wasn't talking. So the other things that he may do, like he may want her, he wants her to watch like a lot of soccer games. Like, I think it's ridiculous amount of soccer games that she said that he would want her to watch. Like, he watches, like, he records the games, wants her to watch them. He watches multiple games, maybe in a day, maybe in a week, maybe a game every day. I believe he said he'll call her. I don't even know if that's true, so I'm not even going to say that because I'm not sure if that's what's happening. But he also wants her to then watch Naruto and watch different anime. It's a lot of things that he expects from her that he's interested in. But I didn't get to ask her what he does that she's interested in. What does he do for her interest? But I'm going to get to that later for one of the topics today. And when I asked her about her interests, the thing when I asked her, when I asked her about her interest, and I kind of alluded to what she might like him to do, which he doesn't do, and she started to get, oh yeah, I would love that. I would want somebody to do those things, and her thing was traveling, and I'm like, if he showed interest in traveling by, picking a place you guys are going, doing an itinerary, paying for it, everything is good. He just tells you, look, put this on, wear these kind of clothes, wear hot clothes or warm clothing, and then y'all just go to the place. And then when y'all get there, he picks a place based off of somewhere that he knows he wants to travel to. I feel like that's giving effort and showing interest in what somebody else wants to do. But based off of her reaction, I don't think he does that. So I don't know what interest she has. Maybe I would probably say dancing, but I don't know if that counts because that's both of their interests. Does that count?
I think Nephi likes to party, or like, when I say to party, I mean like that kind of like
that environment.
Yeah, like that's similar to what she was saying about the soccer thing too, or if we can invite people over. I think she likes to kind of have that kind of like fun-ish environment.
Yeah, she's very people-based.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't know if he does those things because according to my mom, when he's around, he's very reserved. So would he then go out to? I guess they go to parties. I think they do go to parties sometimes. So like I said, I didn't ask these questions when they were here, so that's on me. I want her to come back on so I can talk to her individually. I would like to do a podcast with everybody again, but that will be further down the line. But definitely with her more recent. But she got a new job, so I don't know if she'll be able to come over on Tuesdays. So I'm thinking if I'm going to do it on a Sunday or if I'm going to just have to wait until she has a day off on a Tuesday or something like that. So I don't know, but like I said, that's how I felt about that. I just think it comes down to preparation for knowing who's going to be on the podcast, preparing the question that she wanted to ask. I should have had them on the screen, and it's just all about being prepared. I don't think I was prepared enough for the podcast as I should have been, and I feel like it could have been better. People who have listened to it, they like the podcast, but for me, I just feel like it could have been way better. On top of the fact that from a technical perspective, I didn't press record on my mic, so the first 20-30 minutes of it is from the camera audio. Then we had a second camera angle which died an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half into the podcast. So then there's no other video. So and then the first 30 minutes you hear me talking from the camera audio, which is very far away. It's not as clear as what you hear right now. So like I said, it was just a lot of things that I felt like could have been executed a lot better that weren't executed properly. So that's why you hear me now trying to figure out how I'm going to do better going forward. And I've definitely been thinking about having more people on the podcast just because I want to get more I don't want to say adapt. I just want to adapt more and become more accustomed to having people on the podcast. I think soon, maybe in the next 2 months or so, we'll be asking people to come on. If you want to come on, you could DM me. But for me to start asking people, I think will be the next 2-3 months or so. But yeah, so that is it for episode Playback. And then Donovan's question this week is, how will a virus that you can get sick from more than once be fixed with a vaccine? Okay, I'm going to ask the question again. I'm going to rephrase the question. So, we have been told that the coronavirus can be caught more than once. And they want to give you a vaccine for that. If you can recatch the coronavirus, why would you get a vaccine? So that's it. I just want to put that out there. I'm not going to answer no question. I'm not going to do any leading anything. Not going to give my perspective or my opinion on it. But that's the question one more time. How will a virus that you can get sick from more than once be fixed with a vaccine? Okay. So now today's topics, which are women's agreeableness and women's role in relationships. So actually, I want to start with women's roles in relationships. So, Melissa, what do you think women's roles in relationships are?
What do you mean? Just like in general? Like, I don't know. I can speak about my role.
Okay, what is your role in this relationship?
I feel like my role in this relationship is kind of like, I think it's funny because the first thing that came to my mind was kind of the business part. So I feel like my role is heavily into kind of pushing all the bamboo projects and kind of getting those done. And getting those done. In our relationship, yeah, what comes to mind is really all the physical things that I guess I can do. So whether that's definitely like cooking food, kind of trying to keep the house tidy or keeping myself tidy. What else? What else do I feel like? Yeah, kind of just house management stuff. Whether that's, making sure there's like food and all that stuff. Kind of just managing that. Laundry. Just, pretty much. That's what I think. I feel like it's that way because we live together. But I also kind of like to see like how you're doing. I feel like my role is that too, to kind of just see what's going on in your head and what you want to do, and like how your day is going and all that stuff. So
okay, I think a better topic, I guess, would just say roles in relationships instead of women's roles. And question: what do you think my role in a relationship is?
To get the monies.
Okay, to get the money.
Yeah, to get the monies.
Okay. So the reason I'm asking this question is because what?
There was gonna be more, but sure. It's
what?
Fine. I was gonna say more, but it's okay.
What else do you want to say? No, you said you had more to say.
To kind of keep me focused too.
Okay. So the reason I was asking this is because this is actually one of the questions that my sister wanted to ask on the podcast last week that she didn't get to ask. And I had gotten into a conversation with my mom and my sister recently about this. And is the timer going? So what was I saying? Oh yes, I was having a conversation with my mom and my sister recently, and we were talking about relationship roles. And she was my mom. My mom always feels like every girl I'm dating is always doing more than me. That's what she always feels like, right? And I always, when I tell her what I do, she goes, "Well, that doesn't count on the list of things that the girl is doing, right?" It doesn't matter who I'm dating, what they're doing. She always feels like they are doing too much. Now, I feel like if I go based on how my mom is, she doesn't do that much, in my opinion, in a relationship. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe she does. I don't know if she does. I don't know what my mom does in the relationships. She says she manages the money that he makes. So I feel like that's kind of what she does, but I don't really know outside of that. But when I tell her what Melissa does for me, she's like, "Oh my God, Donovan, what do you do for her?" So now Melissa does a lot of things for me, a lot of things for me, a lot of things in general, right? So Melissa will twist my hair and condition my hair. Melissa will cook food. Melissa will, she, they said this, but I don't know if this really counts, but it kind of does count. So she will like fix clothing that I have. If something breaks, she'll fix it. And so she has, she'll sew stuff. She will do, cleans the bathroom. And I'm trying to think some of the stuff that they might have said. Oh yeah, they did say that. She does the laundry. She does laundry. Definitely said that one too. So she does the cooking. She does the laundry. She cleans the bathroom. She does my hair. She sews. Or fixes my clothes when something goes wrong with it. And I feel like there was some more stuff. And then my mom goes, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I make the majority of the money. I have to pay for the stuff." So this is where an interesting conversation came up for me, right? So what my premise was that Melissa wouldn't be doing a lot of the things that she does if I didn't have the money to pay for the things to get the things for her to do those things. So if I'm not buying the food, then we can't eat anything. We're not going to have a lot of food to eat. If I'm not paying for like the clothing to be fixed, then it's not going to be fixed. If I'm not paying for laundry, then laundry's not going to be done. So I was looking at it from that perspective. So my mom was saying to me that everything's not about money. And I'm like, it's not that it's about money. It's that if you don't have the money to do the thing, then the thing can't be done. It doesn't work that way. You can't get B without starting at A. So I was saying that when you put in a relationship a person that's making money, a person that's doing the things around the house, that they are different, but they are weighted. I wouldn't say that they're weighted equally. They're weighed differently. So it's very important that somebody's cooking and cleaning and sewing clothes. That's all stuff is very important. It's weighted differently. So my mom feels like if all you do is make money, it's only one thing. That doesn't equate to the 5 things that she does or the 6 things that she does. And I'm like, no, it doesn't equate to if you put it on a number one, if you list the things out. But if I'm not making enough money to pay for any of those things, then we don't have any of those things. And I'm like, if I'm not paying for us to move out, we will still be living with our parents. So I feel like those things are very important within their own right as far as paying for stuff. And like I said, they're way different. But my mom feels like, no, you should be doing more stuff, right? So I had a conversation with my mom and my sister were on the phone. And my sister was saying that it's very important that money is not that important. And her example was that what's more important than money is to barter. And that really kind of hit home for me because I feel like I already know that money is not valuable. It doesn't really have any real value to it. But bartering does. And when we barter, it's literally the exchange of one thing for another thing. And money is just something that we barter. So bartering comes first. And then you say, okay, I'm going to barter this money for your time at, your job at the YMCA. I'm going to barter money for you to cook something. I'm going to exchange one thing for the second thing. So it made me think that how important is money really? If I can barter something, I don't ever need money. If I can go to somebody and say, hey, I will rub your feet if you build me a house. And they go, all right, cool. And they build me a house. I don't ever have to need money to do anything if I know how to barter properly. So it just made me kind of think about how important it is to exchange goods than it is necessarily to have money. And when I thought about that, kind of put into perspective of how important is making money in a relationship if bartering is more important than that actual skill. So I know that's a little bit roundabout way of coming back to that. I don't know if you guys were able to keep up with that. Did that make sense what I said?
Mm-hmm.
You sound kind of like no.
It makes sense what you said. I'm still kind of trying to figure out, because you said that they're weighted differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to know how it was weighed. Or how you
I think that making money is, let's say it's a 4 on a scale. I don't think making the majority of the money is weighed the same way as just cooking food. Like if you just took 1 and 1 and said, okay, I'm gonna take making money and I'm gonna take cooking food, and we can put them together, like put them against each other. I don't think it's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I think that
they're not equal to each other.
right. So even though it's 1 and 1, like it's one thing against one thing, I don't think that making the majority of money is like, okay, well, I do laundry, so we're equal now. I don't think it works like that. So I feel like because if I'm outside working for 10 hours and then I come home and then I have to do laundry and I gotta cook and I gotta clean the house, then it's like, I feel like those 3 things or 4 things, whatever those things on that side are, on the right hand side are, would equate to being outside working for 10 hours.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying to my mom. She was like, no, she feels like, she was saying no, she thinks I should do more. That's what she was saying. Now, Neffy's perspective on it is that she feels that any person that is in a relationship should have, it's still recording on here. She said that any person in a relationship should have, should have the skills to do the thing that the other person is doing. And that's what my mom was saying too. So, and I don't really agree with that necessarily, but she feels like I should know how to twist my own hair, right? And I'm like, it would be cool to do that, but I don't think that benefits me to learn how to do that. I'm like, because if you come into a relationship, because before you came into the relationship, I wasn't thinking about twisting my hair. I wasn't really thinking about my beard like that. But say if that's a skill set that you have, for me to then go out and learn that, I think does me a disservice. Cause I'm like, what's the purpose of doing that? But my sister feels like, okay, well, what happens if Melissa's not around? What are you gonna do with your hair? I'm like, what I was doing before. I wasn't planning on doing anything with my hair. I might like cut it off. I wasn't really thinking like, okay, I want to be a person with twists in their hair. That wasn't the thing I was thinking about. But she was like, well, you should know how to twist your hair just in case something happens and she can't twist it. I'm like, I guess, but that's not a thing that I thought about doing. So what was I gonna say? I feel like you want to say something to that.
Oh yeah, I think that with the nature of our relationship, I feel like I think it's good that we both have different skill sets, because it allows us to do more in general as a couple, I feel like. And I think that what really works well with both of us is that, like, I understand, because I feel like just making money makes it sound very broad. It doesn't really go into like what you do all day. So I think that when I think about you being outside, probably having to be in the cold, can't use bathrooms right now, can't go inside, have to wait for orders and travel very far distances, your bike might break down, just a lot of different things that go into that. And I feel like it's funny that they don't feel like you're doing enough, because I feel like I don't be doing enough. And that kind of pushes me to do more in my day. So if I'm gonna make a whole bunch of food, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna record it, and then I'm gonna get this done, I'm gonna get that done, I'm gonna clean the bathroom, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, because I want as much work that I feel like you're doing, I want to do that same amount of work too. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's probably what would be important about it too, is how much effort is being put into the thing that's being done. Because I think the nature of my job has me doing, because I always look at it, the nature of my job has me doing a lot of physical labor, right? But I think that if I always put it like this, if you was to swap roles, if I say, okay, Melissa, here you have a bike. No, I don't even give you a bike. I'm like, go make how much money I'm making. And then you go, okay, Donivan, go do what Melissa's doing. I'm like, I think it would be easier for me to learn how to do what you're doing now than it would be for you to go learn how to ride a bike and then ride around in the city and then make how much money I'm making. Do you agree with that?
To an extent.
Okay.
I think another part of it too is that I've tried to do your job before, not with the same tools, so I know it's difficult. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, I don't want it to sound like, because I feel like it does, that I'm saying that what I'm doing is harder than what you're doing, because I think that what you do when you're doing it, when it's being done, is a lot of work. Like, I think if you're doing...
Understand? What is that asterisk for? That sounds like an asterisk voice.
You don't be doing this stuff.
I feel like I do the stuff majority of the time. You might be seeing me when I'm taking my break. I feel like, honestly, I'm more productive in the nighttime for whatever reason. But I be doing the stuff.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't, yes, I think you be doing this stuff, but I'm talking about in terms of if you was to put in the full amount of work or effort into what you're doing, if you did 100% of what you're doing and I did 100% of what I'm doing, I think that yours would probably, I'm thinking it would probably be, do you think it would be more work?
I think what I do kind of has a lot to do with like a lot of troubleshooting in a sense, and I feel like that kind of makes it more draining in a sense. I feel like with you, because you're picking up an order, you're dropping it off, you're delivering it, you travel far distances. I think, like you said, it's more of a physical thing for you. I think for me, it's still kind of physical because I am actually making the stuff, but I also have to figure out like the recipes, how long it has to take. I have to kind of time stuff simultaneously in order to get everything that I want to get done. And then trying to record in the middle of doing that is a lot. So
yeah, the reason, and the conversation is making me feel uncomfortable because I don't want it to be like what I do versus what you do. I don't really want it to be like that. But because we're talking about roles, somebody's doing one thing and somebody's doing another thing. And for me personally, I prefer to be symbiotic, where it's like we need each other or we use each other to do certain things. So if you were to look at it like, I guess, a DNA, is it DNA string? Is that what they're called? Mm-hmm. What's the whole thing called?
The whole thing.
Is it like a membrane or a vertebra? I don't know. Okay, so you think about DNA. I don't know if you guys remember back when you were younger. Yeah, think of it like it's like a ladder, right? And on one side it was like a M tag, on the other side was like another T tag, right? So I don't know if anybody can follow what I'm saying.
I think it's GCT.
Yeah, right. Whatever the letters were. What I'm getting at is that on one side you could go try to match it up with a G and a G, right? And I think that with Melissa and me, it's not always going to be G to G. It's going to be sometimes G to A or T to C, where it's like she may be doing a lot on one situation, on one area, and then another area I'm doing a lot. But in the area that I'm doing a lot, she's not doing that much. In the area that she's doing a lot, I'm not doing that much. So I don't think that you can take one thing and then go, okay, why is it that you do this and then she does that? Or why is it that she does that and you do this? Y'all should both be doing, you should be doing her hair. And it's like, my mom asked me that too. My mom asked me,
I would never.
Right? My mom said to me, what would happen if you went into the hospital and you were incapacitated in the hospital?
Listen, if I feel like if either of us, because okay, the thing is, I do not think that you are unable of doing what I do, and I do not think that I am unable of doing what you do. Yeah, I was working when we moved in together. It's not. I was working up to a couple months ago, so it's not really. I don't have any worries really about getting a job. If I wanted a job, I can get a job. But the fact that we decided to put the Bamboo Project on the forefront, that's more. I feel like that's my job. I have to tackle that. I also feel that you are not unable of doing the things that I do. You know, you make your breakfast every morning yourself, so it's not like you can't cook or anything like that. I feel like if you had to figure it out, you would. So
yeah, that's what I said when I was talking to them. I said, look, I'm like, if Melissa for whatever reason went home and never came back, I'm like, I wouldn't starve to death. It's not like I'd be like, oh my God, how do I eat food anymore? And I'm like, I could learn how to do the thing that she's doing. It's not like it's impossible for me to do, but it doesn't make sense for me to go and take away from what she's doing so that I can say that I know how to do this, so I can do that. And I'm like, with the hair thing, I thought it was funny she asked that, because I'm like, first of all, Melissa would not want me touching her hair. I mean,
not to style it.
I said, right. I was like, and she said, you're in the hospital. And this is what I thought was funny too. She was like, what are you going to do? She's in the hospital. I'm like, first of all, Melissa needs to condition her hair first before she washes it. Then she has to wash it and then condition it again. I'm like, I don't think anybody in the hospital is going to let me. She said, oh, you bring a spray bottle. I'm like, I need more than a spray bottle just to spray her hair a couple spritz in the hospital bed. I'm like, then I got to get all the different products. There's 7 products. I got to get every single product to do her hair. I can't get every product in the hospital and do her hair while she's, a vegetable. It's not going to happen. I'm like, I'm going to look silly. And then I'm going to have to twist it and put it in the thing and leave it. I'm like, it don't make sense to do all of that. I'm like, I think she'll be fine if her hair, it stays the way it is in the hospital. I think she'll be fine.
Just put a bonnet on me.
I'm like, I'm like, she'll be fine. I'm like, she'll be fine. She's like, well, you should know. I'm like, I don't think that is something that I should know how to do. Then she goes, well, what happens when you have children? I'm like, when I have children, maybe I'll probably learn it more so when I have children. Because then there's a reason for me to do it. Because I've been doing my child's hair to help with the relationship. But for me to be like, let me learn how to do Melissa's hair because she can't move, I think that's just silly. So that's what she was saying about that. And then it was something else about the relationship roles. Oh yeah, I was saying before. So I think that I think that trying to compare. That just happened?
Yeah.
Okay. Is mine still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. I wish it would stop doing that Donivan MacBook Pro thing. I wonder that's so that it doesn't get imprinted on the screen. That's why they do that. So yeah. Like I said, I think that it's really a disservice to try and compare apples to apples in relationships because it doesn't work like that. It's because unless you compare it down to the dollar sign of what somebody's making compared to the other person, or you compare it down to what meal somebody makes. So it's like if Melissa decided, okay, she's gonna make tacos. Does that mean that if I make hamburger, that because it took longer to make a hamburger over a taco, that now I'm doing more work? I feel like that's silly. I feel like now I got to make a taco because she made a taco, because now to compare both tacos, we got to say, okay, who is putting more effort into making a taco? I think that becomes silly. And I don't think that it, like I said, I don't think that it's doing anybody I don't think that it behooves anybody to try and compare relationships, like I said, from apples to apples. I think you have to compare it on, okay, you come to a group, right? You sitting at a table, you have a bunch of pieces of paper on the table. Somebody grabs letter A, somebody grabs letter B, somebody grabs letter C, somebody grabs letter D. And then you guys just have to spread out the tasks that need to be done for the household. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be that one person, if I'm cooking, you gotta cook. If I'm cleaning, you gotta clean. If I'm exercising, you gotta exercise. Like we gotta do the same thing. I don't think it should be like that. So what was I gonna say too about? It was something else we talked about. So she said relationships, roles, relationship. It was something else about the roles. Oh, this is kind of what Neffy was saying too. I don't know how much I touched on this already. Because Neffy feels like, which I didn't get to that. I didn't get to the fact that he don't be cleaning up, but because Neffy feels as though each person should know how to do the other thing, just in case the other person is not there. She feels like there shouldn't be a situation where if one person disappears, they can't do it anymore. Now, I agree with that to an extent. I feel like I should know how to cook more food, because I do think that it takes a burden off of Melissa to do so. I do think that I could do more to help take the burden off of her. I think that's how I feel. I feel like that's just a natural thing. When I'm in a scenario to do so, I don't think that I should come from work and then be like, all right, well, now I'm cooking. Now I'm the one that's going to cook the food. I don't think that's how it should be. But I do think that if there are days that we're home together, I should have the skill set to be able to go, okay, I'm going to make A, B, and C and whatever, or at least I'll prep it or something like that. I do think that would be a good service to have as a individual who's dating somebody to just know how to do certain things, just so you can give a helping hand. I think that's more symbiotic than you do that and I do this type of situation. So that's that. And then how much time is left? A minute, an hour 15 is.
Well, right now we're an hour 15 minutes in.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah. I mean, that's how we're talking about with that. Is there anything else you feel about relationship roles, Melissa?
I don't know. See, because it's like it's weird because you're saying that, and it's like I be feeling that you shouldn't have to cook or do anything on your day off because it's your day off from work. So, I do agree that if you I don't know if you off for 2 months or something like that, then maybe you might have to do a little something. But that's I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. You had said something in the beginning. What was the first thing that you just said?
That if you're off, I don't feel like you should have to.
Oh, right. So one thing I was saying too is that to my mom is I feel like if I then learn how to do, that was the other thing I want to bring up too. That was the other thing. I feel like if I have to learn how to do everything you're doing, then what would you do? Right? So this is what I want to ask you, right? My mom presented this question to me. She said that I should not need a girlfriend. I should want a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Right? Do you agree with that statement?
I do.
Okay. So, I understand that statement, right? I accept that statement, right? I have some different thoughts on whether or not I agree with that statement. So, for me, one thing that I kind of built into this relationship is that we have to need each other. I feel like those are bonds for a relationship that they should have, right? Because I feel like if I do everything that you're doing, then what would you do? Like if I'm like, okay, I'm going to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, I'm gonna do my own hair, I'm going to do laundry, everything. I'm gonna edit all the videos. I'm just gonna do everything. Everything you do, I'm gonna do.
You gonna sing too? You gonna drop an album?
I might drop I would sign somebody. I would sign somebody that could rap.
You gonna take your own pictures when you play basketball at your tournaments?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have somebody else do this.
You gonna do it? Oh, okay. You're gonna have somebody else. Right. So you're gonna have everything that I do will be handled in a sense.
Yes. So yeah, sure. We'll go with that too. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
On if that were to happen?
Just on that theory, on that the thing I just presented to him.
Okay. Okay, so when you say that you feel like you built this relationship based off of us needing each other, like what do you mean?
I feel like there are certain things I choose not to do because I feel like it would be better if I don't know how to do them. Like if I need you to do certain things, I feel like that'd be better.
I don't really feel like, I don't really know if you really do that. Because I feel like you've been doing the same thing that you were doing prior to moving into the house. That you would just go to work for mad hours and then go home. I feel like that's what you're doing now. So, how do I explain it? I don't think that's necessary for a relationship. I'm really trying to figure this out. Are you asking me if that's a good or bad thing? What do you?
It's kind of your opinion on what I said.
Oh, just in my opinion. Well, I feel like I like things the way that they are. I like the fact that I don't have to go to work. I like the fact that I get to build on things that I didn't even know that I could do prior to doing them. And I feel like because of how we're set up, it's allowing us to go on a trajectory into like an interesting place, I guess, where I feel like there's a lot of potential that comes from this. And I think that if we were not set up the way that we're set up, if I still had to go to Starbucks, or if I still had to go to Amazon and work, the days of the certain days in the week and all that stuff, I wouldn't be able to put as much into into the YouTube videos or into the clothing and everything as I do now. I'd be tired pretty much. And I feel like we kind of save each other from the different things that we don't really want to deal with. I know that you would prefer not to go to work either. But that's why we do this.
Yes.
So
what you said is obviously makes sense. I don't know if it relates to what I was saying necessarily, because I'm like, let me see. You saying you like this situation, and I'm wondering if it's better that I do everything. How do you feel about me doing everything, is what I'm saying?
if you were to do everything, I would not like that. I wouldn't like that at all. I'd feel useless. What would I be doing?
See, and that's what I told my mom. And I feel like, because I've heard that before. I've heard that I'm too independent, and then people feel like I can't do anything with you because you do everything by yourself. That's what I've heard. So I'm like,
wait, who's too independent?
Me. Like, I've been told that, like, Donivan, you do everything. Like, I don't need anybody to do anything for you. So I'm like, okay, I understand that in a relationship, the other person should feel like they are needed in a relationship. Otherwise, they don't feel like they have any purpose. So if you came home every day,
I be getting tight. I be feeling upset.
Cook, clean. All you gotta do is sit down, eat, and watch TV. Like, there's nothing to do.
No. I wouldn't. I would have to do something. I have to get a job. I have to do something.
Right. You would feel like, I don't know, because I feel like when that happens is this goes back into the needing somebody thing. Because I feel like you have roots in a relationship. Like, let's say that there's dirt. I can't, if you are just doing nothing, then you can be blown away because you don't have any purpose. There's nothing holding you down to the relationship. You're just like, well, I'm just here until I'm not. I don't really have anything. There's no reason for me to be here. But the fact that you are saying, okay, my name's on a lease. You're saying we're getting a property together. We have a business together. I do the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry, and I do those things. And the producing and videos, a lot of other stuff. So it's like, and my hair. So if I just was like, it's harder for you to just be like, I can just be pushed away or blown away in the wind by anybody because I have roots in the ground. So this relationship needs these things from me. But if you are doing nothing, then it's like you don't have any roots to hold you down to the relationship. It's just the wind blows and you're not here anymore. Whether it be because of me or whether it be because of you, you just wouldn't be here anymore. And what I was trying to tell my mom is that I feel like it's not better that I'm doing all the things you're doing. So for me, like I said earlier, purposefully, I will try not to do certain things that you're doing. Mostly with cooking. So I'm like, okay, I can learn how to cook and do the cooking that you're doing, but then what comes from that? I don't feel like that leads to a more net positive in a relationship where it's like, okay, now I'm doing most of the cooking, or I'm doing 45% or 50% of cooking, or 50. If I'm doing 50% of cooking, I don't think that would make you feel good personally. That's what I think. So I don't know. Do you agree with that? Mm-hmm. You say yes. Okay. Do you kind of disagree?
Just slightly. Only I feel like it's not a you thing. I feel like with the cooking, I have to kind of get more accustomed to making more food at once. So, like, example, I feel like right now, because I'm home, I would kind of just set things up for it to be easier for me to make it in that day, that time. So the food is kind of always fresh. But I don't think it would be a problem for me to have food in the fridge that can just be grabbed and eaten. And I need to work on doing that. So that's not a you can cook more food thing. It's more so I need to kind of reorganize or reshape how I set food up for the week.
Yeah, so like I said, that's where my mom and I were talking about with nephew on the phone. So I personally, like I said, from my experience, women do not want you to be too independent. That's what I've learned. Because then it's like, what do I do? So, that's another question I was asking you is about the needing thing. Do you think, you said you think it's better to want somebody than to need somebody? Mm-hmm. So I think that's better to say in theory. That's better to say I want to be wanted and not needed. Like, it's cool to say.
But I feel like when I think of that phrase, I think of what I said earlier, the fact that you can figure it out eventually. You can figure out how to cook, how to do this, that, in a way that makes you feel comfortable. And the same thing with me, where it's like I can find a job. It won't necessarily have to be your job. Different things will come from it. But if I need to make money, I can figure out a way to make money. So I think that's what comes to mind, or this is what I feel like wanting someone as opposed to needing them is, because I'm not going to be completely lost. I'm not going to be, how to explain it? I'm not going to be at a big disadvantage if we were not in a relationship or vice versa.
Yeah, then I think it comes down to what is needing somebody.
Yeah, because when I think of needing someone, I think of like, if you are not with this person, then you do not have these sets of opportunities anymore.
Yeah, and I'm like, and like I said, I don't really think that anybody ever needs anybody at all ever. So I think the word in itself is kind of it's kind of deceiving, because no matter who you are, where you are, somebody else can do what you're doing. So if, let's say you move from here to California with a man, and he got you a job, and he got you all the friends he has, all the friends you have are his friends, all your family is over here and you're over there. It's like, if y'all break up, you can still go and find a way to get a job somewhere. Like, you can go and learn the skills to do something. It's not like you need anybody to do, like, you don't exist anymore because that person decided we're not together.
I mean, I feel like if that is a situation, that's definitely toxic. And I feel like some people do feel like that. So I feel like they feel like they cannot do things without their partner being present, or they just can't. And I feel like that mindset is the problem. So I think that's where it comes from.
Which mindset?
With the needing someone, because, okay, I feel like what you are saying is what wanting someone but not needing them would be, like how our relationship is. I feel like if someone would go with the mindset of they need the person that they're with, it would, I think the mindset is what the problem is.
Which is, let me see.
Because if I felt like I needed you for money, then I wouldn't think of ways to try and make money myself and stuff like that. Everything is centered around you.
You said if you felt like you needed money, you wouldn't try to get money?
If I feel like I needed money and I equate with you with that, I need you and I need the money that you provide, I can't live without that, then you are kind of having that mindset. It's kind of like, damn, I can't do anything about the situation I'm in. And I think that's where the problem comes from.
But this is why I have an issue with that, is because I feel like even in that scenario, you can still, is it still running? In that scenario, I feel like that is a lie. It's thinking that you need the person for the money, even though you don't. Because even if you leave them or they in your home, like, you can still find a way to get up, to get to having a job, to having a life, having a career. Even if you're people who are homeless, find a way to get a job. So if you have, if a guy dating a girl and the guy's like, you know what, I'm done with you. He's a billionaire. She was nothing. Let's say she had, I don't know, she was a whatever, and she just a pretty face. And he goes, I don't want to be with you no more. She goes, okay. She can still go and do something. Like, it's not like she just has to sit in a box somewhere and can't move.
I think the only time that really happens is in like domestic violence situations where somebody's being abused or there's like toxicity in the environment. So
Yeah. And women's agreeableness, I didn't really know. There was, the reason I want to talk about that is, I'm really not going to go into it today, is because I think that's the reason why my sister wasn't really talking much on the podcast, is because the woman's agreeableness of not wanting to, rock the water or shake the boat in your relationship. Even though I think that's healthy. I don't know why she was, I don't know. I still don't. We talked a little bit about it. From what she said afterwards, things didn't seem much better from when we talked when I talked to her about what they are going through now. It's just, I don't know. But yeah, women's agreeableness, look that up. So right, so I am doing consultations, DonivanGray. You can DM me on Instagram to set up a appointment for a consultation. We are now welcoming guests. We shoot between 10 and 12 on Tuesday. So if you want to be on the podcast, you can just DM me and we can set up something for you to come on the podcast. If you have something you want to talk about, some question you want to have answered, or if you have some type of topic that you just want to discuss or get your voice heard about something, you can come on the podcast and we can talk about it. If you haven't already, go check out our social medias. That is mine, DonivanGray, DonivanGray. My girlfriend, AnetaBurn, ANETABURN. You can follow us on multiple different project pages. We have the food page, the clothing page, the music page, the fitness page, the sports page, and the Bamboo Project podcast. All descriptions will be, almost had it. All Instagrams will be in the description below. Bamboo Project out.